His election victory was all but certain. What's not as clear is whether Ibrahim Raisi can turn the tide for Iran. The new president and close ally of the supreme leader takes office at a time of crisis. Domestically, the situation's been described as a disaster. Anti-government protests plagued Rouhani's presidency, as did an economy spiralling out of control. Raisi campaigned on a promise to fix it, and while he won June's election in a landslide, more than half the electorate didn't turn up to vote. Many of them calling the whole process a sham.
The election took place among the 7 candidates they chose. According to us, this was an appointment, not an election. I'm not hopeful for the future. In my opinion, if you ask any Iranian, they have the least hope for the future. I personally am not hopeful for the future.
If Raisi wants to convince the skeptics he's the right man for the job, he'll need to confront the economic crisis head-on. Young Iranians can't find work, inflation is on the rise, and millions are struggling to make ends meet as the currency loses value by the day. Tehran has long blamed crippling US sanctions for its woes. President Raisi has vowed to eliminate them.
ما حتما به دنبال رفع تحریم‌های ظالمانه خواهیم بود. اما حتما سفره مردم را و اقتصاد را شرطی نخواهیم کرد. گره به اراده بیگانگان نخواهیم زد.
It's a bold promise, one which will no doubt be difficult to achieve. Even some of those sympathetic to the president fear he won't be able to deliver.
40 years of history shows us that nothing could change the situation. Even though he is a good and honest person, there is still nothing he can do, because the situation is fundamentally bad.
One of the most polarizing issues inside Iran has been the nuclear deal. Support for the agreement, known as the JCPOA, has been steadily falling. But a recent poll showed just over half the country still backs its revival. Raisi maintains he's only willing to negotiate if sanctions are lifted. But can the president persuade his US counterpart to make that happen? The conservative cleric already has a strained relationship with Washington. Donald Trump imposed sanctions on Raisi when he was chief of the judiciary, for what the US called grave human rights violations, some of which date back more than 30 years. In 1988, Raisi was part of the so-called Tehran Death Committee, which reportedly ordered the execution of thousands of political dissidents. Many of them were associated with the MEK, an armed opposition group with links to Iraq that Tehran views as a terrorist organization. Amnesty International wants Raisi investigated for crimes against humanity. Regardless, he'll be Iran's representative on the world stage and the one tasked with reviving the Iranian economy, as well as dealing with its neighbors, both friend and foe. Mohammad Walji, The Newsmakers.